My childhood in the city was mostly fear. So that's why I got involved with martial arts for self-protection. In Kyudo, it said that the main focus is not hitting the target. I'm just a low rank. This is only Sandan.
How long are you doing this?
Maybe 13 years. But I'm doing another style before this style. But altogether, about 13, 14 years. I started with a different style in the States. I changed styles because I was told that to practice in Japan, you have to be with this style to go to the dojo.
Why is the uniform?
Doji?
Dogi, black.
Because this is my style, right, ninja. Because it's not a formal class, so I can wear it. This is just practice. I can wear whatever I want. If it's a formal class, then I'll get properly dressed. I even have a kimono over there that I wear.
When you practice Kyudo, you wear kimono?
If it's a formal practice for testing, once you get to Sandan, then you're testing, you're supposed to wear a kimono. Kimono is what you see in the movies, the full dress, full thing with the long sleeves, and then they take it off part way when they're shooting. That's the kimono. It's complicated, but it's warm. It's nice in the winter. It's very hot in the summer, so you have to wear a summer kimono.
When you try to hit the staff, what are you thinking in your head? Are you thinking something or nothing?
A lot. Am I straight? Is my posture here? Am I pulling enough? Is my head turned enough? Is this correct? Is my elbow straight? Is this correct here? Is my grip right? Do I have enough stretch? Is this shoulder in line with this one? So there's all that checking.
So you come here like twice or three times a week, right?
2-3 times a week. If I'm doing the shinza, sometimes every day. Everybody has a different motivation. For me, it's a personal challenge. It's an internal practice. It's part of my Zen practice. And some people, if you say Kyudo and Zen are the same, or Kyudo and Zen, they get very upset because they say, no, it's not. Kyudo is a martial art. But people that know Zen understand that it's Zen. Because Zen is not just sitting and looking at the wall or closing eyes and meditating. It's everything. Meditation is in everything that you do. So this is a meditation, another form of meditation. And so the motivation to do it is the same as when you do Zazen, to just improve yourself. And even though you're under stress and under pressure to do correct and perform correctly, you still have to be relaxed. When releasing the arrow, a relaxation, but still there's tension and there's wonderment. Oh, did I do everything that I was supposed to do correctly? But there's also, just before releasing, there's a moment of no thought. And so there's a moment of blankness. But then it's like, oh, did I shoot correctly? Did I hit? You wait for that sound to see if you hit. And then afterwards, you're not supposed to shoot and then immediately drop. You're supposed to release and then hold. And it's called Zazen, where you are still contemplating your shot. You're contemplating how the arrow traveled, if your posture is correct, and then you end and walk off. I had the sensei tell me when I was doing the shinza, if the judges are watching you So even after you step off the floor, if you can still be seen, they're still judging you. So if you step off the floor and then,
How do you feel when you hit the target?
satisfaction. Satisfaction. But, you know, the funny thing is that even when you hit sometimes, the sensei will come and say, oh, you should adjust this way. Something was off, your hand or something should change. Because in Kyudo, it said that the main focus is not hitting the target. It's your attitude and your posture, and it's the form that you're doing. So if your form is weird and okashi looking, even if you hit, it's not a good shot. And when you're testing, you can hit and still fail the test. Where am I from? I was born in Philly, but I'm from California. I grew up in Philly, but also in Virginia.
Virginia.
During the most winters, I went to school in Philadelphia. When I was
Elementary.
Junior high, middle school, yeah. During that time, in the summers, I would always go to Virginia and work on my grandfather's farm and his businesses and help with the business, running the gas station and helping with the farming and all that. My grandfather stayed there, so he owned land and he was raised there. He had the farm, he had the service station, the gas station where they fix cars and pump gas. He had which you would call in Japan izakaya.
Oh, bar?
Bar. Yeah, he had a little bar and serves food and beer. We call it a beer garden because they only served beer and food. And you had a jukebox. You could play music and there was a dance floor. Did he experience racism? Yes, but he was well known in the area. He was also part white.
Oh.
So it was different for him. And we would have whites come to his business all the time, including the sheriff in the county. Like for example, you weren't supposed to serve beer on Sunday, but the people who knew him, including the sheriff, who was white, would come by. Mr. Davis, could you sure, come on in, and go in through the side door or the back door and go into the bar. They were nice people, and I could pretty much go anywhere around the town. My childhood in the city was mostly fear because there was a lot of gang problems at the time. So that's why I got involved with martial arts for self-protection. Yeah, I was a small kid and I wanted to be able to walk around without worrying so much about being beat up. So I wanted to be able to protect myself because there was always gangs. If I went to school we had to go through a couple of 2 or 3 different gangs territories. So I always had to be alert and watch out for the gangs, and in the schools you had to deal with the gangs. So gangs were a big part of growing up in the city. In the countryside it was completely different. You could relax. I could go anywhere. I didn't have to worry about gangs.
So your parents wanted you to go to the farm?
No, it was my idea because I didn't like the city. I didn't like that feeling uncomfortable all the time. It was always dangerous.
Always.
I have scars and stuff, battle scars, and so when I was that age, a teenager, if you had an argument with somebody, you would settle it by fist fighting, because we did we called one-on-one fighting, or gangs were fighting, but it was about fists. At the most, it was knives, but usually it was fists or sticks and that type of thing. Moved to Japan because my wife she wanted to come back home. She was tired of living in the States and dealing with the politics and the racism that she was experiencing. And also she felt some responsibility for her mother because she was the oldest daughter of two. So she wanted to come back and take care of her mother. And we were going to sail here on the boat. That was another part of my adventure was we were going to sail this boat to Japan from California. And I was going to use that boat as part of the business here once I got to Japan. Well, we lost the boat. We had to get rescued at sea, about 400 miles off the coast of Mexico. Because we sailed down the coast of California into Mexico. We stayed in Mexico for 4 months on the boat. We started to go to Hawaii, and there was a big storm coming in and lost the steering on the boat, and it got very complex very fast. And so we got rescued by a passing oil tanker from Greece. The captain of the ship that rescued us, he said because of the storm that was approaching and the waves that were happening when they came and picked us off the boat, he couldn't risk towing the boat. He was going to tow the boat with us, but he says it was too risky. So he had to just get us, and we had to climb on the boat and go and leave the boat, my boat, with everything that we owned on this boat. So yeah, that was sad.
Do you still sail?
Yes, I teach sailing out of Shinnishiyomiya Harbor. So I use his boat to go sailing. And when the pandemic was going on, everybody in Japan, most people would wear masks. It was like, oh, okay, this is going to help the group and help everyone, so I'm going to wear a mask. In the States, it was like, no, this goes against my freedom. I'm not going to wear that. You can't make me wear this mask because it's my freedom as an American that I don't have to do this. But in Japan, it's like, oh, this is going to help everyone, so we'll do it. But in the States, no, I'm not going to do that. So what else? I don't have to be concerned in Japan about getting shot by the police because I don't look Japanese or I have this dark skin. In the States, target, you're guilty. They'll follow you around in the stores. In Japan, if you come into the store, you're a stranger, regardless of what race you are, that I know of. They'll just look around. But in the States, they'll watch you or follow you around the store to make sure you're not shoplifting. And then you look at them, and they're like pretending like that they're not looking at you. And then you move, and then they move. Discrimination is more blatant in the States. I know how to speak to police. Whatever they want. Oh, you want my ID here? Instead of, oh, why are you stopping me? I don't have to show you my ID. It's not. There's no legal for some. I just, okay, here you go. Just give them what they want and don't make them nervous. You get pulled over, but in the car, you keep your hands on the steering wheel until they get up to the car, and then you move slowly and say, oh, I'm going to reach for my driver's license in my bag here. And then they'll say, okay, but if you just go, and then they would move quickly, they'll get nervous, especially if you're a person of color. So I don't have to deal with that here in Japan.
So you were speeding?
Not necessarily speeding. I usually don't speed, but it could be anything. It could be anything. They didn't like the way you looked, so they pulled you over.
Really?
Once I was in college. Girlfriend and a couple other people were in the car, leaving the college campus. Pull up at the stoplight. Policeman's coming this way. I'm sitting at the light. He looks over at me. The light changes. I start off really slow. He comes behind me, rolled over, pulls me over. You were speeding. But I was just sitting at the light. How could I be speeding? You were speeding. Give me your license. And followed me over to the courthouse. Took me over to the courthouse, gave me a big fine. Yeah.
How do you feel? I mean,
Like dirt. You feel worthless. You feel useless. You feel like a non-person. You feel less than anything. Disrespected. Yeah. The mindset is so rigid about things. The political and the legal and the rules are so rigid, and there's not any kind of flexibility towards the circumstances or the individual. This is the rules, and this is the way we've always done it. So even if this way is better, this is the way it's going to be because we've done this for hundreds of years.
like fascism, right?
Yes.
What do you do for living?
Sailing instructor,
Instructor.
a little bit from time to time. I do some occasional work for the city office called Silver Center, and do gardening in the parks and that kind of things. And then the bands, sometimes we do some band work. When I'm out, sometimes I'm doing takohatsu. Takohatsu is kumoso. Kumoso, dressing kumoso and playing Shakuhachi. And the people will make donations. So I'll go to different places and play, like Nara Station or Osaka Castle, dressed and play Shakuhachi, and there's a thing people can make donations. And also, what else do I do? Some other time, teach Kung Fu. I teach Tai Chi Chuan, Tai Chi Kyoken. I teach Shaolin Fist. I teach Praying Mantis Fist, which is Kamakiri style.
So everything is Kung Fu.
It's all Kung Fu.
Okay.
Yeah. The only thing I also teach Kali, which is not Kung Fu. It's a Philippine martial art. So I get some money from that, and then retirement money from Social Security from the government. And right now it's nice because the yen is so low that the money from the States is very helpful. That's part of the training. That's part of the training. Not being overwhelmed. You don't think about the whole thing. You just think, oh, I'm doing this now. I'm doing this, and you just focus on one moment at a time, one thing at a time, and not, oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, and I just feel so. You have to go to work. You have to take care of your pets, and clean the house, and cook the dinner, and all that. It can be overwhelming, and that's why some people get so stressed out. So that's part of the training, to be able to control that and just do one thing at a time, one step at a time, and breathe and relax, and enjoy that moment, and find that peace within that moment that you're doing, because all that other stuff doesn't matter while you're doing this. They say in Zen that there's no past, there's no future. There's only right now. Put it this way. Every day in life, in the weather, is not the same. Right now, I hate the cold. But you have to live, you have to deal with it. That's training, to just deal with it, and just one step next step, next step, next step. You don't focus on how much you hate doing the job. You focus on doing your best at that moment. You're supposed to try to find the good in everything. Same with people, but there's just some people you don't like. There's people that I don't care for. My next door neighbor is one. He's weird. And I don't hate him. I don't like him. I dislike dealing with him or even seeing him. He hates me.
Really?
Yeah,
Can you tell?
absolutely. Anytime I come home and I drive up with my motorcycle, he comes through the window and just stares at me. He just stares, so, okay, and then I just, okay, ignore him. Because he's the one with the problem. I don't have to accept that. So if I accept it and then I don't like you either, then that's bad for me. And that just increases the negativity. It's best just to, okay, that's your problem, it's not mine. I don't have to accept your problem.
How did you start Shakuhachi?
Well, I started on my own before I came to Japan.
Oh, really?
Because I liked the sound of it. It was a musical, the music sound of it I liked. But the way I found my sensei was I was walking to the train station one day and I heard Shakuhachi. Oh, where is that coming from? And I followed it out this house right here. And I listened for a while. Then I went home and I told my wife, and could you write a note? And so she wrote a note and I left it in the mailbox. And then he called her and said, yeah, because I wanted to know where I could learn to take, and he says, oh, I'm a teacher. So that's how I started. And I've been with him for maybe 6 years now. Yeah. And he helped me become Komuso. If I wanted to become Komuso, I can tell you about that later. But,